guest today, to be honest with you. I don't know how I made it to this episode today.
Ugh.
But anyways, we're here today, you guys, with Molly. She is an intuitive hypnotist. Hypnotist.
Yes, hypnotist.
It's so hard to say that word. I don't know why. Is there like a certain like type that you do, or does it all just kind of fall under one umbrella?
So actually, no, I've been trained in 4 different categories of hypnosis. So I have actually done like more extensive training than just like a typical like past life regression, what I did with you in the past. But I actually can do interlife, past life regression. Um, oh gosh, there's so many. Like I don't even
I
know.
get
Like
it.
there's so many different kinds, and yeah, but mainly I tend to focus on like current lifetime. Now, I was working in past lives for a really long time, but I have kind of shifted to working with like in all of your life. It's really, really fun because I found myself doing that in my past life regressions anyway.
Mhm.
So it's been a really cool shift.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I look at it is like technically our past lives and this life and our future life are kind of all happening,
Yeah.
and when you're in that spirit space, you're outside of that like linear time. Um, but what term did you use? Inter something?
Interlife. Yeah, so interlife is kind of like if people want to go to like a specific point in their life. And sometimes like what will happen is like we decide, like we intentionally decide to go to this interlife, but sometimes we end up going to a past life, and like it just it there's no like that's why I had to get trained in all these other things.
Yeah.
I'm trained in spirit releasement therapy too, which is like a type of hypnosis. Like there's so many different types, man.
Yeah. No, I get you. Wait, so do you say spirit release? Does that mean like purging an entity, or like what does that mean?
Yeah. So, a lot of times people will have like an attachment of some kind, and similar to like what you experience in Reiki. But when you're in hypnosis, because the client themselves can see what's happening, a lot of times the uh, emotional state is a lot bigger. So there's a lot more fear. There's a lot more like objection, a lot more resistance. So you're having to like really get in there with the client and be like, it's okay. Like, and we had to like calm down. And then we do like these like basically rituals to
Yeah.
remove that attachment.
Like an exorcism.
Yeah, it kind of is. But it's so funny because it's like you're not using any tools outside of yourself. You're using all the tools in yourself, which is like the most magical thing because then, we come out of those experiences with more confidence, more clarity, more awareness. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like most people when they start their spiritual journey, they'll for instance have like crystals, or like they're super into, some type of tool that they use, or even tarot or something. And then it's like as you evolve, you realize all you need is yourself. Like crystals
Yeah.
help, I like crystals.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like we are these amazing souls that like nobody can really fully explain. Like, oh, it makes me cry sometimes thinking about that.
Yeah, it's funny. My husband always talks about how like he's really into crystals. Like he's like far beyond my scope of
Mhm.
practice with
Mhm.
crystals. And he always tells me that like if you can energetically like hold and maintain that frequency that that particular stone has, like you have no need for it. Like,
Mhm.
and we've been kind of experimenting with that like ourselves because it's really fun to kind of figure out like, okay, what is this frequency, like how is it like treat like, well, we are like both Virgos, so we're super analytical, so we like go down like all these like questions for each other and ourselves. And
I
we're
love
both
that.
healers, so it's like we gotta upkeep the things.
No, I love that. I've never been in a relationship where both people are like on the same kind of spiritual frequency. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. I love that for you guys. And you're my second Virgo guest in a row.
Yay.
We're
We're
on like a
taking over.
yeah.
Just kidding.
There's like an earth trend here. But it's so funny. So it's kind of blowing my mind right now because I feel like I haven't really spoken to you in probably like 5 years. But
Wow.
I feel like we were just talking like last week. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like
Yeah.
there's been an awkward
No.
time gap. And I don't
Yeah.
know if that's because you've been in my subconscious or what.
That's weird because actually I have clients that tell me that sometimes I'll like pop into their heads and like while they're at the grocery store or something and I'm like, "Hello." Like just by the
Well, I
way.
think it makes sense, like, because even though hypnosis is all about like the subconscious, and that's kind of like a more or less physical thing, it's very spiritual too. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. Just like with my clients too, like people I do energy work for or whatever, they tell me that I'll kind of like even discipline them in their dreams or
Yes.
something. Like, don't do that.
Yes.
So it
It
makes
happens so
sense.
much. Yeah. Well, it is, and like the subconscious is like, we're always having access to that. Like, and people like, I mean, you don't always have access to like the like world of that, but like you really do. Like, you're always getting hypnotized. Like, if you're scrolling on your phone, you're in what's called like alpha brainwave. So that alpha brainwave is making you absorb all of these things all the time. And so that's why you find so many people nowadays that are really stuck in comparison. Um, and even like when you're watching TV, same thing is happening. That is on multiple different levels, which I mean, if you don't know, you should know by now. Like,
Yeah.
like let's be honest. You're totally getting hypnotized, and that's coming from a hypnotist when you're
Yeah.
watching TV.
And
Because
that's the thing too, is like you like you were saying, like your subconscious takes in everything. Like your conscious mind
yeah,
focuses on like, okay, I need to know these things for survival, but the subconscious is getting all like the extra stuff. So it's important that people like you, are able to kind of facilitate a safe space to access it. So I want to talk about a lot of different things because I know you and I have our own understanding of hypnosis, but I feel like a lot of people don't
yeah.
still.
That's so
So
true. There's, like, so much, like, misinformation out there. So, yeah.
yeah, so I want to actually like get into it. So with hypnosis, basically, in a nutshell, could you explain it as like you help somebody go into a meditative state, and how would you describe it?
So, for me, I think of it more as, like, trance work, if you're talking in, like, a bigger spiritual perspective. Because meditation, you don't have a guide. Meditation, there may be like somebody guiding the experience for you and you may get into a brainwave state, but with hypnosis, I'm trained to get you into that brainwave so that you can actually access what you need. Um, and from there we kind of the sky is the limit. Like, once you're in that like theta brainwave state, like, you can access so many different things. So we've tried to come in with a really intentional perspective of what we're working on. And my job is to help your subconscious by the end of the session be able to have perception as sort of a filter. So your perception is what filters your subconscious before coming into your conscious self. So I help you with your perception, and then also with, the subconscious like inner work. Like, we're rewiring all these beliefs so that you can actually like move forward.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, with perception, like, that would be seeing the glass half empty versus half full,
Yeah.
right? Like, how
Yes.
you're influenced by any type of factor. But yeah, I've actually hypnosis is something I've been studying for a long time, but I have never fully like committed to it. Usually because my personal life is so messy. But um it's so funny because you did a past life regression for me like several years ago, like I was saying. And thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
But I actually found the recording like a couple of days ago when we were talking about doing this episode. And
Oh my god, I'm
just
so glad.
today, I know, and just today I was watching it back. There was so much I had forgotten that like
Mm,
we had talked about.
yeah.
And my higher self was roasting me, dude.
Oh, yes, dude, it's so true. Like, mine does the same thing, but it is different for everybody. Some people have a more gentle higher self, but like you and me, like, no, like,
Yeah, it was funny.
they
It's
go
funny because
in.
like yeah, it's funny because like when I do readings for people, like they're always like, "Wow, like you really tell it how it is." And it was just
Yep.
funny to receive that from myself.
Well, now you know where it comes from.
Yeah, yeah. So it was cool. So like when we did, I'll just like briefly share about mine. So one of the ones where I was an orphan, which didn't surprise me. I think I've had several lives where I'm either running away or my family abandons me or whatever. And then I had one where I was like this high priestess in ancient Egypt, for this certain type of like, I don't know if I'll get flagged for saying sex on YouTube, but it was kind of like this like magic sex cult or whatever. But it was like high vibrational. It wasn't like a deprived, sicko, weird thing. It wasn't even about the like intimacy in that way. It was just creating that like strong energy. But what was so crazy was oh man, I hope I can remember. It's hard to even talk about. I feel like as I talk about it, I forget it. It's really weird. But basically what I was saying in that past life, and it really touched me today because in that past life I was, even though I was a high priestess, I was very young, and I wanted so badly to not have that responsibility of being this spiritual person and having to help people. And like in the thing I was saying how I just wanted to be a normal person. Like I didn't want to do all that, and now all these other people are jealous of me because I'm like doing this, but I don't even want it. And that hit me so hard because I think I still feel that way sometimes today where it's like I don't want to show up. You know what I mean? Like I want to just be out there, not have a care in the world. But it's like, and what I said in the regression was once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep.
Yep. And a lot of times, those messages within those lives that we get are like they're so parallel to like what we're living now, because the truth is like any life could have came up, like any lifetime, any like pattern, anything could have came up, but that's what you needed in that moment. But also, since you went back today and looked at that recording, that's what you needed in that moment too. Which is so crazy. I tell people this all the time. If you ever get a hypnosis session, and I even do this, like I record a lot of my readings, like for people too, because I think it's helpful to like be able to look back and gain what you need for that specific time.
Yeah.
And I actually have gone back in some of my like Akashic Records stuff that I've done, like even like hypnosis that I've gotten done for me. Like I still get messages and get all new information every single time I listen to them. So that's typically what I do on my birthday is like I'll go back and like look at all the things.
Oh,
Like,
I like that. That's a
yeah,
good idea. You could even
yeah,
see like how you've grown too.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but it is funny how you talked about the parallels and how we're talking about like everything's outside of time and everything. Because I do a lot of past life readings, and
Hmm.
that's another thing that like people are able to validate. Because I'll say something specific about this weirdo like past life, and they'll be like, "Wow, I actually went through that in this life too." So it's just cool to have that validation in like both of our different kind of ways of doing it.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. And, like, what's interesting is I actually did an Akashic Records reading with, a mentor of mine when I was learning the Akashic Records and all the things, and, um, she had told me in that I guess the Akashic Records told me, I'm
Yeah.
remembering my vocabulary now, that essentially, like, I was this person, and like I had all these lives where I was missing things. Like I couldn't see, I couldn't hear. I had like, and in this particular lifetime that I actually ended up looking into in hypnosis, um, I had my hands cut off, and it was like, but it was pretty crazy. Like those things can happen. Like
Yeah, yeah,
what was
yeah.
really it's fascinating to me now though, because it actually didn't like break my spirit like at all. Like I was the last time I was on earth, I was in Rome, and I had this like village of women outside of the Roman capital before it was like Caesar. And I got really specific with the details, like the history, like where I was, like what was happening, what like almost like what year it was. Like it was so specific. And uh then what I figured out is like they pretty much knew that I was using like some kind of magic to like keep all of these women alive while their husbands were like off in war. And they did not like that. I would just they cut off my hands because I was doing magic. And so that was like the lifetime. But what was crazy is the thing that I said in that lifetime, like it still resonates with me now, is when I was like, you can take my hands, but you can't take my magic. and
Oh.
and then I went and I laid in a river, like with my bleeding hands, and I had the women that were in this like place that we lived, and they came and tended to me with all these herbs and other things. It was like the most beautiful, like crazy whirlwind life. But like what's the most bizarre thing about that life was actually a symbol that I saw written on the ground. Um, and now it is actually, I knew I had to figure out what it was because I was like,
Yeah.
this is like, I knew I could draw it. Like it was
Yeah.
a circle with a cross inside of it. And so that is what, first of all, I knew I was young at this time. Like this was like years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But it's the solar cross, and it's actually that is literally a symbol that would have been written on the bottom of houses at that time, like,
Wow.
and I didn't know that, and it took me on this huge deep dive into all these other things. So there is no like when I say that there's no limit, that's what I mean. Like
I
if
know.
you think that your brain can't think something, like you, I promise you it can. Like I promise you, I have been totally weirded out by the stories that I've gotten from not only me, like some other people as well who have like researched what has actually happened in those past lives and figured out literally who they were. Like like
Like, by
they
name?
yes, like
My god.
it's crazy.
No, I think it's amazing, and sometimes I wonder, if more people knew that this type of thing was real and legitimate, if it would encourage more just joy or, like, magic or, like, whimsical
Yeah.
something. I mean, there definitely would be equal, like, good and bad, of course, like, with this, but I
Yeah.
just wonder, like, how much happier people would be, just kinda having, like, proof that, this type of death, like, when we die and we're buried, isn't the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely kind of gone through my own understanding of that too. And there's so many books on it too. You know, there's Many Lives, Many Masters, anything by Dolores Cannon. Like she's like, she did the thing. Like she
I like,
she really did it.
I think it's called Journey of Souls. I can never remember
Yeah,
who. I'm horrible with, like,
I don't
titles and
remember.
names, but, he was a hypnotherapist, and he's the type I love the people that are like, "I was all into science, and I didn't believe in that until it happened," and then he, like, started having these experiences, and it really resonated with me because he talked about, like, when he would take them in a regression or just hypnosis and ask about, "Okay, now your soul has left your body, like, what do you see?" And that's where they would be in the life between life or whatever, like kind of heaven or purgatory, whatever
Yeah.
people want to call it. And it was crazy because in our session, I went into that
Oh
space,
yeah, I took you there. I remember that.
and
Yep.
at the time, I had never even heard of that. Like, I
Yeah.
did believe in reincarnation, but I didn't really ever think about the details of that or what it looks like. So it was just crazy how, like, my experience was real, and like everyone who has ever done that has had a similar experience. And it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, and like what I've noticed is when I do take people to the LBL, that's just what we call it. Um, it's weird because when they're getting there, it's not the same.
Mhm.
But I think that's what's so cool about it. So I believe that at the end of our lifetime, because of what I've done in hypnosis, not just with myself, but with other people, I believe that that last few moments between lives is all of your own. Like that is all your perception. And everything that your perception is doing is moving you towards the actual LBL. And once you
Mhm.
get there, that's when you actually have like your like overview of that lifetime. They kind of like take you through like a process. It's so interesting. And the only art I've ever seen depicted of this, like that actually like really resonated with me, was The Soul Factory by Alex. Oh my gosh, Alex. Wait, yeah, Alex Gray. Alex Gray.
I wish I knew how to edit videos because then I could like put the picture here. I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah, and it's so magical. Like watching the people that like maybe are skeptical even, Like, watching them go to, like, these places and actually, like, genuinely receive healing, like, half the time I'm like, "Y'all, this is not me." Like, this is 100% like the energy of these sessions. Like, the way that they were set up is so unbiased. Like, I think that's sometimes what skeptical people, like, believe is that, we're biasing or influencing people to, like, go to these places, and I can tell you, I just take them there, like, and then I just
That's true.
ask them.
Actually, I want to confirm that because when I was watching the session back, there was never a time when you tried to lead me to a certain answer. You would ask me very open-ended questions of like, "Where are you?" And you
Yeah,
wouldn't say like, "Is it rainy?" Is it you just, "Where are you?"
yeah.
And I would just be like, "I'm outside," or like whatever.
Anything that you say, like, I like to compound questions. Like, I think that's actually like even in like my coaching that I do or like readings that I do, I think that's one of my superpowers is being able to like ask the right questions for what you need right now because I had to learn it. So, because, we go through like differences and mistakes. And when we get to the point where we can finally retain that unbiased perspective and we really just let that client like do the work, um, they receive so much more than me being like, "You go here," like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not helpful.
And you know what? I was actually just thinking because one of the goals of my show is I want to make sure that everyone is like on the same page. Because I think some people on like different levels of spirituality might not understand. So I actually want to go back to the LBL. Could you maybe describe it for us or kind of describe like
Yeah. Do you want me to describe like what it's like the majority of the time, or like how do you want me to do that?
I guess just like because I understand that everyone has a different like specific journey there, but
Yes.
just the overall, like for instance, do we all go and we sit on a cloud with God sipping margaritas, you know?
So, yeah, from what I've experienced, they what happens is when you go through a lifetime, um, then eventually you're kind of like in this like liminal kind of space. That liminal space could be filled with color. That liminal space could be filled with absolutely nothing.
For me personally, it was white.
Yeah, and a lot of people do say like a light of some kind, but I've had people that experience darkness, but then they were like seeing stars. I've had people that they were experiencing like sacred geometry, all kinds of different things, and so I think that is really based upon perception. Like however you're viewing like afterlife, or like walking through the afterlife,
Yeah.
because I've actually had people like more of like the um I've had people that come and take them, like,
Mm.
and that's really interesting.
Oh wait, that actually happened to me too because my
Yeah.
grandpa was there, and then me and grandpa were like flying like through space or something.
Yeah. So I think that there's definitely a path, and that path is always gonna look different, but there's always some kind of path that takes you there. And then you kind of there's one of two things that happen. Again, just in my experience, people have all different kinds of things that happen in their sessions, but the clients that are drawn to me to do this work with them, they really either they're going off and doing what you're doing, exploring space time and all the things, or they're going straight back to Earth. Because a lot of times that happens. So what happens if you're going straight back to Earth is you have to go to school for a little while. If you ever seen the movie Soul, I actually like sobbed crying. It's like a Disney movie, and I
I've heard
sobbed
about it.
crying watching it because I was like, "This is so accurate." like,
Mhm.
like you have these people that are trying to teach you these lessons and these like it's literally your guides and your soul family. Like, oh, it's
You
such
know,
a
it's so funny that you said that because literally just the other day, my stepson was like, "What do you think happens when we die?" And I like went into detail about like what I think, like going to the LBL and like you have like your family or your soulmates kind of there. And then he was like, "Oh, that's like soul," and I'm like, yeah, you have a soul. He's like, no, like,
It's a movie.
yeah. And I was like, oh, so apparently they're like teaching real stuff to kids now. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, like, and I was shocked when I watched that movie because my stepson actually turned it on for me one day, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool!"
That's crazy. But yeah, I have like especially with that book, Journey of Souls, and I would love one day to go to the LBL again. I think the
Yeah.
reason why I was really just shown like a very bare minimum of it is because I think at the time I wasn't ready to really go through all of it. But from what I read in that book, it really resonated. Like, when you just know, like you just know, and I was like, that makes sense. So yeah, I heard about, like, for instance, like in Christianity and most religions, if you're like sin and you're bad, you go to hell. But I read in this book that people who maybe did really really bad things, they would actually go into kind of like a cleansing place, or almost like solitary confinement, where like their guides could come visit them sometimes and teach them, which I that, like, brought so much relief to me. Like, not that I think I'm going to hell or anything, but you always wonder, is there, like, some type of horrible place that people go? And just to see that, I was like, "Okay, wow." Like, it's not that serious, it's not that bad.
Yeah, the way the Akashic records, like, because I kind of use both, like with any kind of hypnosis. I can't just stick to one thing, man. I have to learn all of it. So what I learned though is that in the Akashic records, they kind of like they view it as like there is like technically like a space that exists because everything in the Akashic records that's there exists, like some like in the Akashic records. So in like because anything that you think of and that you don't use
Yeah.
or whatever, it goes up to the Akashic records, and that's where the library is, and we go through all the stuff. um and what I actually asked this question in a session for me because I thought it was really interesting. And what I got from it is that like it showed me that hell, as we think of it, like in our Judeo-Christian minds, like we see it from this like planetary perspective. So it's like a planet, like where this exists, and that's just how my brain probably was perceiving it. But you know, I felt what it felt like. I felt the anger, I felt the resentment, I felt the guilt, that was kind of like coming off these people. But what was interesting about it is there wasn't anybody there. There's nobody there. It was just an empty space where all of these things went to go live. And it
Mhm.
was like what I thought instantly is like this space is asking us to like transmute it, like change it, transform it into something else because it's obviously there. It's like, we need to figure out how to like use that energy and shift it. And so I guess that kind of could have been a metaphor also for, what we're trying to do on Earth.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like what they say too, like, you can either have, like, heaven on earth or hell on earth, like, you're kind of
Yeah, you
you
decide.
can
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's totally true.
Yeah.
Totally true.
So another thing I think we should talk about are actually the Akashic records. Like, I don't even know if I can really define it. I've only really worked with it twice, and it was something that, like, at the time when I was like learning about it, I just felt like I didn't want to know. Like, I just didn't want to tap in. You
No,
know what I mean?
I don't wanna know. I actually had that in my training when I was around, like, 7 other people, and they're, like, reading my freaking mind, and my teacher was like, "No, you have to actually respond," and I was like, "No!
Yeah.
I don't wanna, I'm uncomfortable."
I know. And I feel like it's just so funny because I was watching back the session that we did, and so much was said to me from me that I was like, girl, I'm still where I was 5 years ago. Like, I need to get to work.
I need well, and that's why I changed how I do things, That was one of the things that, you're not alone in thinking that with these like past life regressions, because that's the way I was trained at that particular time, But now I know better and I do better
Mhm.
with these sessions. And what we really do now is like those limitations, those like things that you just can't get past, those things that you're like, ah, I'll deal with it like someday, whatever.
Yeah.
Like truthfully, you're probably, unless you take like action, you're probably never gonna work on it, like
Yeah.
we're just gonna stay where we are because those things just stick with us for so long. And
Yeah.
I actually posted about this like 2 days ago. It's like sometimes it's just like one shitty comment from oh, I don't know if I'm supposed
Oh, you're
to.
fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, the only thing
um,
that gets flagged for sure is the F word, but you're good.
okay, cool. I'll try to not.
Now you will.
I know. Now I'm like overthinking it. Like it's hypnotizing me to say it.
Yeah.
um, but yeah. So I don't even remember what I was just saying. I just like whoop,
Oh,
mom
we were
brain.
talking about how you do the
Oh yeah.
hypnosis differently.
Yeah, so with how I do things now versus how I did things then, I my sessions are actually a lot shorter, but they're a lot more impactful. Um, and that has to do with like all a whole number of things. But and I think that I've really like I don't know. I was actually talking about this with a client 2 days ago, yeah, that I had, and I realized something that has been happening with all of my clients that I just realized in that session is they all have been talking about this spot in their body that after the session feels released. And if you don't know this about me, I went to massage school and I did learn like a lot about anatomy and stuff like that. Again, I can't pick something to learn because I have
I
to
get
learn
you.
everything.
I get you. Yeah.
So I realized that from my research and also just for myself, I realized that's where cortisol has the most buildup in your body. And I was like, oh, that's what's happening in these sessions. And it was just like this complete download um, that, we're literally helping you to lower the intense cortisol response in your body. And again, I'm not the one like totally doing this. It's like it's the energy that you're in. It's the sense of calm that you can hopefully recreate for yourself. There's so many different factors, but and I realized that like I need to be doing hypnosis that also can impact on a practical level because sometimes it is like hyper spirituality takes this like different perception in like the spiritual communities. And I think now, like a lot of us that like really had like those huge awakening experiences and like 2018, like 2020, like all
Mhm.
around there, we are now like I mean, that was cool, but like we also need to like go and do things for
Yeah.
ourselves, and we need to be able to get through like money mindset limitations. We need to like get through our limiting beliefs that are keeping us in this box. Like a lot of us worked on like those like there's limitations on like the physical like mind and like the consciousness mind, but we didn't really work on the practical stuff.
Yeah.
And like that now we're like, oh, like I need to like actually get my shit together and be an adult.
No, I totally get that because I think it's so easy to just want to be like all spirit. And then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, should I have a body though? And I'm actually here and I have all these things I have to do.
Yeah, and, like,
So
there
yeah.
but even that, like, even in past life regressions and stuff too, all of that has a purpose. Even if we're not talking about it, all of that stuff has a purpose for what we're living in our reality. Because sometimes actually, like, a long time ago, I wanted to write a book called, like I'm probably not gonna write it, but, like, maybe I will. It's
Maybe
called
you
the
will.
Maybe I will, but the title that I kinda came up with for it is, like, the magic inside of the mundane, because if you can get to that space where like I say this to my clients all the time. This is like my broken record thing.
Yeah.
But if you can be magical at the DMV, you know that you made it. You
Oh
know
yeah.
that you made it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you can do that and all those people around there are looking at you and doing all the things and you don't feel the sense of insecurity, doubt, guilt, shame, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and you can just be there and be your authentic self, you know that you made it.
Yeah. For me personally, like with what you're saying, for me, like my experience is always that like I'll have that energy for a solid amount of time and then something will happen and I'll go right back and then I'll work it up and I'll be there again. And it's so funny because in my session that I did with you, my higher self literally said that I like start my car and I turn it off and I start my car. And then my higher self was like, I wish you would just start the car and go. I was like, okay, rude, first of all.
Yeah. And that's something that I've also kind of worked on with a lot of clients too, is that like I don't know how to explain this, and I don't want it to sound like super egotistical because it's really not. It's something that I've worked really fucking dang it, I said it. I've worked it really hard uh at creating for myself. And that is creating that consistency. It's so hard. And like I am a new I'm not a new mom, but I am a new birth mom.
Mhm.
And that like I can't explain how intense it is to somebody that isn't around kids. Like if you haven't been in the depths of parenthood and motherhood specifically, uh there is a whole game that you have to figure out. Like I had to look at myself, like I think it was like 8 months postpartum, and I was like, "Girl, like what are you doing? Like like who are you?"
Yeah.
And I had to really look at myself and say like, "We can't keep doing this. Like we have to find our equilibrium, and it needs to be lasting, intentional, and consistent." Like, and I really think I like cracked the code on how to do that. And everyone's different, but the main thing that I've always seen is having that consistency. Consistency with practice. Like, it doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter if your kid's screaming, you're still going to show up and you're still going to do that because that's how committed you are. Like, that's the level of commitment that we need to keep every day. And I've noticed, like, even when I don't feel like showing up, and like, I'm not talking like fake it till you make it. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean showing up and being annoyed with yourself that you're there. Like, but also you realize halfway through, you're like, oh, wait, I can relax a little bit, or I can go a little bit deeper, just like in yoga. Like, if we're doing a position and we feel, hey, I can go a little bit deeper with this position than I thought I could, we have to test ourselves, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it sucks because it is a spiral. I mean, inevitably, you're going to learn more about that lesson in the future. But
Mhm.
that consistency with being able to like show up all the time, and it's life changing. Like,
Girl, consistency is probably my number one issue, and I blame it on my Gemini moon. Like, I just feel like I don't know, and there have been times where I have been consistent, but then it's like, I don't know, it's like if one thing is off, then I just, like, everything falls apart. I don't know what it is. I don't wanna talk about that, but it's just so funny, like,
no, it's
I know you're
true.
right.
But I mean, that's the thing is like, there inevitably are, like, I was literally talking about a client like with this morning, is that like inevitably, like, things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But one of the questions that I keep asking people's higher selves, because I guess I could share a secret, um, is what are you gonna do when things get really bad, and how can whoever the person is um, pull themselves out of it in those times? Because I think that's such a practical like
Mm.
tool to be able to use. And what's funny is it's almost always the same answer. It's always go outside and ground, and like always remember like your why. Like even if you don't like intentionally remember it, like the act of doing one thing every single day that is helping you to ground in some capacity, that one thing is going to shift all of your day, like the whole thing. And it's such a small thing. Like people, I've had this so many times. We're like, is it really that simple? And I'm like, yeah, like it really is. Like, and but the thing is, that's the thing that I help with is that perception. those lenses that we're viewing things through, whether that be rose colored glasses or something else. Like we're seeing through what we perceive reality to be. So,
I like how you said that people are like, "Oh, is it that simple?" Because I think we think that if it's not some crazy exercise or some expensive miracle pill or whatever, that like we're not doing enough. It's so funny. But I think also there's also that like I don't know if it's necessarily subconscious, but that kind of resistance sometimes to fixing the problem. And I don't know if you want to say that's like negative energy or, our own resistance towards our higher self, but like I noticed that a lot of times it's the simplest thing, and that's also the thing that they're most resistant towards doing.
yeah, and a lot of times that actually has to do with like what you're here to do on earth, which is so funny to me because there have been things like, for me, I never wanted to like start a business, like doing any of the stuff I was doing. So I was like, no. And like I had this teacher that pretty much told me, they were like, "Nah, you're gonna do this." Like, and what's really annoying is it actually was like even before I was born. Like my mom went to this psychic, and she pretty much told her that I was gonna be like, very intuitive and doing what, it was already like predetermined, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
And uh yeah, it's crazy like what we go through, those resistances like in our life. And I found that like even my own limiting beliefs that I've had to work through myself, like those have been the things that were truly holding me back. And once I kind of hit through all of them and rediscovered myself, it was like, oh, like I can actually help people do this. Like,
yeah,
this is actually something that I feel confident in doing. So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to like push through that resistance. But, I can tell you from a hypnosis perspective too that resistance is your subconscious's way of keeping you safe. And a lot of times, our ego does the same thing. It keeps us safe in these like boxes that we create because our perception, but so does our subconscious. Our subconscious is like, wait, like you can't go there because that one person in 2002 decided to tell you that you
yeah.
couldn't. So now it's like that's also like your job, and to like push through those like resistances. And I've had like, my fair share of them. Like I had one I was on my way to go to a ceremony that I was participating in, and I got a call from the leader of the ceremony, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, there may be some resistance to coming here." And I was like, "Cool, good to know." And then my tire blew out on my way, and I was like, "Oh." And he was like, I called him and I told him, I was like, "Look, I might be late." And he was like, "It's okay." Like,
Yeah,
you just I need you to get here though. And I
yeah.
was like, so it's kind of like that normalcy again, like that normal things that we think are like telling us to stop. They might be telling us to stop, but they also might be keeping us from where we actually want to go.
Oh, that's so deep. My God.
I know.
Oh, Jesus Lord.
I know. And then like, at that ceremony, I received so much clarity. Like it was such a beautiful experience, and I'm so glad I actually like got there and participated.
Yeah. That actually, I literally just remembered this. So recently I started doing social media for a local crystal store.
Oh,
And
cool.
at the crystal store, they do like Reiki and QHHT, so like hypnosis. And we wanted to do some Reiki content. So I was like, you don't even have to do Reiki for me. Just hold your hands over me and I'll record it and just make like a cool video. But as soon as he like put his hands on me, he was like, "Oh, you need this. Like you really need this." So he ended up doing a full like Reiki session on me, like legitimately. And in the first like couple minutes, I said, I feel like I need to cry, but I can't get it out. Like it's just not happening. So, and I kept telling him, like, you don't have to do this. Like, you can stop. And then he kept doing the Reiki, and I ended up crying my eyes out, like so hard. And I'm
Oh,
not that type of person. Like,
yeah.
people in real life who know me, I'm just either happy or mad. Like, there's no
No in between.
there's no in between. So, like, Yeah, it was so crazy, and I just remember feeling so much better. And yeah, I get that. It was like I kept telling him to stop. I was like, it's okay." Like, and it's just, oh man, Molly, my brain has been exploding all day today just watching our past life regression video again because the more I'm talking to you, like I'm realizing, holy shit, like I did need to hear all those messages again from my higher self. And I also, so thank you for that. And I also want to say that I admire you a lot, like having this conversation with you because never once were you just like, oh, I'm like the best hypnotherapist.
Oh my
Like,
god, no.
you know, you were like, I do the thing, but you have all like the energy you're working with. So I really love that. Especially, I've been doing these episodes for a little while and everyone's different, So I just appreciate your more like humble, just like I feel like this really is your passion. You're not looking for like, clout or whatever.
Nah. I mean, if it happens, man. Like, you can disagree with me, but I am so actually when I was working on my own like business plan with one of my friends, we kind of uncovered the fact that like at first it was like the people that are drawn to like my kind of work are very open. And I was like, that's not true. Like, I work with skeptical people all the time and I'm here for it. Like,
Yes.
I actually enjoy working with skeptical people because most of the time those people have like super active imaginations and imagination is how hypnosis works because if we didn't have something that would create the images or the pictures we wouldn't have anything to work with
Yeah.
other than sounds and feelings and that kind of stuff.
And you know what? Before we did our session, like a little fear of mine that I think a lot of people probably have was not that I doubted like you, but I doubted myself of like, what if I don't say anything? So I feel like that's probably a
Yeah.
common fear.
Yeah, it's absolutely a common fear. And what's funny about it is that there's a trick that we do with hypnosis. If you can visualize an orange and you can visualize smelling and cutting open an orange and then having the sensation of the orange fill your nostrils, then you can get hypnotized. um, but the thing is, I feel like I have to clear this up because I think a lot of individuals that I have come into contact with, um, they only know of stage hypnosis. They don't know about other hypnosis.
So that's fake, right? Like you can't be like, when I snap my fingers, you're gonna turn into a chicken.
Yeah, no. So yeah, all of that is like most of the time what they're doing. Okay, so actually, hold on. Like, let me back up because technically, stage hypnosis, you are consciously aware of what's happening. Like, if you can't hypnotize one person and not like also work with everybody else in the auditorium in the room. That's not how that works. Um, but however, there is a type of hypnosis. I'm not like trained in this, but my dad actually studied hypnosis. I mean, he did like sessions like himself, and not with me, like with somebody else. And he actually did theatrical hypnosis, which is actually supposed to help you through traumatic events and experiences and help you work through that in more of a theatrical kind of setting. Um, which is really interesting. I don't know of anybody these days that's doing that. I'm pretty sure he did that in like the 80s. So I don't even know if he would still do that anymore.
But
But
so would that be like, I want when I snap my fingers, I want you to stand up and move your
no, it's not the
shoulders?
same thing. So stage hypnosis is like those people that go to high schools and they're like, I'm going to hypnotize you to run around and do the things, whatever they do. And most of that is just people wanting to be funny in the crowd because they raise their hands and they're like, I'm going to do this. And so they're consciously agreeing, like, I'm going to go and do this. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, and this is just my experience. If you've experienced this though, like if somebody out there has experienced that, like please hit me up and prove me wrong. Like I am down for that conversation
Yeah.
because but from my understanding, yeah, that's not real. But theatrical hypnosis, so what that would look like is you have like a producer and that producer is kind of helping and they'll insert people to play certain roles in whatever experience or event that you are trying to work through. And so you actually like yes, you're in like hypnosis, but you actually can still walk around. It's very different than like anything that I do, but I still find it interesting, like that's how some people are like out here working through trauma.
Yeah, no, that's
Like,
interesting. Like I could just imagine, you're maybe it's a scene where you have your parents yelling at you or something, and
yeah.
so you have these actors, right? But then what if you're like are hypnotizing, like punch them in the face,
No, it like there's people there that like will like kind of help through that
intervene
experience.
or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And you're like given a lot of guidelines. I know my dad, he did like a seminar on it or something, and he's told me like lots about it, especially because he's told me about that my whole life, and I had like no interest in
Yeah.
hypnosis forever.
It's like,
And then I
oh
was like,
dad,
oh,
whatever.
yeah. But then all of a sudden I was like, wow. Well, actually, it happened when I got into hypnosis. And then I popped out like instantly after the session, and I was like, I have to do this for people. And this phenomenon has happened to me throughout my life now, that every single person that I work with on like such a deep level, and they help me so much, just vanishes. They're just gone. They don't do it anymore.
Dude, that you're freaking me out because that was me with my Reiki master.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we went to the same one because yeah.
Was it Stephanie?
Yes.
She's gone,
Yes,
dude.
I know. I
She's
emailed
off the
her.
face of the earth.
Yeah, I emailed her like years ago because I was like, I do that. I even do that with like elementary school teachers. Like
Oh.
I'll find you and I will give your email. um, and yeah, it was so weird. And she sent me something back, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, I've had that happen like multiple times, like with
Wow.
like teachers that I work with, like super consistently, and then all of a sudden they're just gone, and I'm like, what? Like,
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's
it happens a
crazy.
lot. So wild.
I don't interact with a lot of people, to be honest, but I have like one main mentor. She's actually been on my show before.
Oh, cool.
I believe she still goes by Intuitive Goddess Shanti. Her name is Teresa. And we actually found out that um she's kind of like, I call her like my spirit mother,
Mhm.
because she was actually supposed to have a child around the time I was born, but she lost that child.
Whoa.
And even her name Teresa is my actual stepmother's name. And like we had all these, like we have the same like zodiac sign, and like we just had so many kind of, and we met in just the most random like strange way. So I always see her as kind of like my spirit guide, spirit mother.
That's
Like I
so
always think of
cool.
her as like, I'm like Pocahontas and she's like the old willow tree.
Yeah,
But
that's so cute.
she's not old, she's gorgeous.
No, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of stuff can totally happen too, like, at least from my understanding, like, actually, like, even my husband was talking about that or our son, like, he was well, my stepson, he was almost born to somebody else, like like, but to him, it's very weird, but he talks about it all the time because, that just is common conversation in our
No, I think
household.
I first of all, I love that, but I think it makes sense because if I had been born to my spirit mother, I would have been raised with all this spirituality. I would have taken it for granted. I would have been like, screw this, mom. Like, I don't want to be like you know what I mean? And instead, I had to have a harder time so that I could naturally kind of become who I'm, supposed to be. But it's
Absolutely.
just so insane watching our session again. Like, not to keep bringing it up, but like, my mind is blown when I was saying, like, oh, I want to just be normal. Because I think that that's been my hardest thing with this. And I don't know if you can relate, but I don't wanna be this, like, freak, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really like, it's embarrassing when I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I do tarot readings for a living," or, like, I do, and I
Yeah,
don't wanna be embarrassed, like, you know what I mean? And I'm not always, but there's always some comment, there's always some, like, and they totally don't understand it, and I would never change it for anything, but you know what I mean? Like, it hit me in my freaking chest, girl.
yeah. Yeah, I think kind of one way that shifted for me, because I definitely have felt that, and I've definitely been like, I'm also like super introverted, so like I interact with a lot of people like out in the world, but like very few people like know like my interlife is like. And because I kind of do that on purpose because I just it's sacred to me, and I don't really want to give people access to, like, the opinions of, like, anybody else. Like, I think that I to keep the sanctity of my inner world the way that it is, I have to repel people's opinions, and which sucks because it's hard, and people are like, "Why don't you think this way?" And I'm like, "'Cause I can't." Like, I can't. It's not good for me. I've done that, and I don't wanna do it anymore.
Yeah, I
But,
get you.
yeah, that consistency too, that's the thing. Like, every day, man. I actually was watching this other podcast about this woman who, she was like a former, um, CIA, like, spy or something. Former spy. She's like the Secret Service, and she was talking about how, like, we can really take on other people's opinions as our own. Um, and now I just was like, I'm not doing that. Like, because then she gave all these statistics about all these things, like how your friends can influence you in ways that you don't even know. And I was like, I'm gonna take a look. Like, who do I have around me? Who is making this happen?
Dude, I get that, I really do. That's why I don't really like it's not that I don't like interacting with people, but I just am not inclined to it. Like, don't get me wrong, I can go and, like, have a party and, like, socialize, but I don't, like I don't know, I get what you mean. I'm not, like, the biggest people person. It is because of that. I don't wanna be influenced by anybody. That's why I try not to even follow other spiritual accounts very much, because I don't wanna somehow be influenced by them, or you know what I mean? And it's really fragile too, because somebody might post, like, some download that they got, and it might make me feel weird, like, "Ugh, I don't agree with that,"
Yeah,
or, and then I also
yeah,
have this understanding that God might tell you something different than me,
yeah.
but it's just you know what I mean? I don't wanna have that comparison, like we mentioned before, or even,
Yeah.
like, I just don't wanna be influenced.
Yeah, I think the comparison is, like, the biggest thing that I've seen is, like, especially with, like, people that work, like, online, like, there's so much, and to all the haters, man, like, if you're out here spreading negativity onto people, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life? Like,
I think
what
they're just really miserable and bored.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe we should look introspectively, like that's what I mean. Like, I am cool with talking to those kind of people because if I can make like a little tiny impact, like, I'll do it. Like, I don't mind having a conversation. Like, I
Yeah.
can speak your language too. Like,
No,
I'm also
sometimes
human.
No, sometimes I just troll back at them. Like one time I posted, I don't even remember what it was, and this guy commented like, "You need to get psychiatric help before you put a child in the oven." And then I responded, and
What?
I was like, "Thanks, wouldn't want that to happen again." Because
I
it's
think
just
Yeah, so actually me and my friends have been talking about this a lot. There's a specific thing that I've never had the place in the room to be able to say it, but I've always wanted to say it. Especially now that I have like kids. Like so if somebody's like coming at you in the world and they're like with some kind of negativity, it's either that what a weird thing to say out loud. Or those are inside thoughts. We're gonna keep those inside.
those are
I haven't
good.
been able to use it, but they're so good.
Yeah, those are good, those are good. Sometimes I wish, like do you ever remember, like, in, like, elementary school or middle school, people would be like, "Whatever, loser," you know? Like, I wanna bring that back and just be like, "Whatever."
That's so funny.
'Cause, like, I think it's equally as immature
Yeah.
as, like,
Oh,
what the other
absolutely.
person is. I
Yeah.
might just send them a picture, like
That's so
but
funny.
it's so crazy. But I noticed that when you were talking about your stepson, how you were like our son or his son or stepson, I
Mhm.
relate with that. It's so like because you
Yeah.
want to be specific, but it's also just so you were a stepmom and a birth mom
Yeah.
or bio mom or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So how would you like? We can talk about this because I have stepkids. I don't have my own child though.
Yeah.
Um, but like how has that experience been for you just as a stepmom and then also as somebody who now has your own?
Yeah, so I think that, in I feel like I just call it my maiden time because that's like the I guess the spiritual term or whatever. In my maiden time when I was
Oh,
first
you're saying maiden. I thought
yeah.
you said your mating time. I was like,
Oh
"Oh,
no.
we get spicy."
Lord, that's hilarious. I mean, we all know how babies work, like
Yeah.
um so yeah, in like that maiden kind of era, I I feel like I was really naive. And like I had my stepson like around me. And it wasn't really until I went through like the newborn stage that I realized how trippy like parenthood is. And I mean, even like before then though, like he is my son, like 100%. And like I love that kid with like my entire heart. Like
And you mean your stepson, right?
yeah, like, I love him. He is, like, so creative and super deep, like, he's, like has, like, a triple cancer stellium, so he's, like, all about family, and he's just, like, the most amazing kid. Like, I am so lucky that I am in his life, and, like, it's just, like, crazy how cool he is, but what's weird about like the situation with him and um me is that like he didn't really grow up with any mom. His mom died when he was like a year old. So I it was a role that I didn't really understand that I was getting into. But I think like no matter what, like your parenthood experience, no matter what it is, like you have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
like um, but I really got to, like, kind of, like, change his, like, relationship with women, and I think that I'm just grateful that I can be in his life, and, my bio son or whatever, I just call them both my kids, like, I don't
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
what the correct term is, but, when he was born, it honestly gave me more of an appreciation for my stepson too, because I think that I learned so much about, like, I'll even look at, like, baby pictures of Jack and be like, "This is so cool, like, you were in this stage at this time," and, like, you know, but parenthood's so wild. Like, it's just the coolest experience. I feel like I've learned so much more about, like, patience and understanding and, really being able to, like I feel like a really big flex is that I can still be, like, a spiritual person and a mom. Like, I still am able to, like, balance those 2 worlds in this really dynamic kind of way, and it's hard, but, you figure it out. Like, I remember, I don't know, like, 3 months ago or something, Jack was, like, freaking out, and, like, I recognized in that moment that I was like, "This is why I learned so many of the tools that I did," like, because he probably, like, screamed for, like, an hour, like, at me, and I just took it. I sat there and I just, like, let him have that space, and if you are around kids in any capacity, you know how hard that can be, but
Yeah.
once I did it, it was like purging. Like, he was, like, purging this, like, anger and resentment that he had, like, built up, and I was like by the end of it, he was like I told him, I was like, "Look, dude, like, I don't want you to filter yourself. Like, I want you to be 100% with me. Like, I don't need you to hide. I don't need you to change. I don't want you to change. Like,
Mhm.
I'm here to support you." And I think that really like shifted a lot of stuff for him because you know, I think a lot of people in his life are just like, he's gone through so much. And I don't think that's like a good thing to like put on a kid. It's like, yeah, he's gone through a lot, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't need the space, you know? He needs the space to
No.
be able to be.
I just love that, like, we're both stepmoms too, because I feel like there's such a gross stigma, like, around it. Like, I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, have had negative experiences with step parents, or
Yeah.
even just, like, every Disney princess has an evil
Yeah.
stepmom.
So true.
Like, what the heck, guys? Why can't we have, like, one evil stepdad? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Totally
regardless,
understand.
like, it is just such a magical journey. Like, I love my stepkids as well. Like, I'm totally on the same page. But since there's two and they're like, there's such a different dynamic with each one. And so, like,
Oh, yeah.
my older boy is 12. He's almost 13, and he's a little bit of a troublemaker. He's definitely the one we have a harder time with because like he's been through some things, and I'm
Yeah.
coming late in the game. Like, I met him when he was 10, and he'd
Yeah.
already been through a lot. But he mirrors to me my, troubled child self. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
almost like working with him. I'm almost healing myself, and almost even when we butt heads, it's like I'm fighting with my younger self. It's really interesting how we mirror that to each other. And then the younger, our daughter, his daughter, stepchild,
It's
whatever,
okay, you
right?
don't have to I get it.
Go through the list.
I
But
know.
she just turned 8, and I swear this little girl is like, I don't know how to even describe it, but I feel like her and I are from one of those soul groups, like in the
Yeah.
LBL. Like, I think she's so intuitive. Like, first of all, she's a Pisces.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
I work with a
But
lot of Pisces.
yeah, so she's just something else. Like, one time, she told me, and this is back when she was like 6. She said, "Oh, I made that tree," and I was like, she was like, "Yeah, like me and God, we came to Earth and we made all the trees and like all the
Aw.
like thing." And I was like, I was questioning, like, is this little kid stuff or is she like channeling like
Nah,
her
man.
person?
Oh god, no, that is totally a thing. Like I got to learn that with Jack, which was really cool, and he really taught me that about. Well, I already knew this, but I didn't see it in person, like with a kid that I could talk to so openly. I met Jack when he was 4, so he was still like totally in his subconscious, and I recognized that I could ask him certain questions,
Mhm.
and that he would actually respond like without
Yeah.
a filter, because that's the thing, that kids don't have the same perception filter that we do, because they haven't had enough experiences for those things to compound all together. And it kind of starts going away between like 7 and 8, where they're that open. um but depending on their experiences, it can kind of like shift. And one of the things, like, he used to tell me all the time, I was like, tell me, like, I would say, tell me about like black holes or something, and he did, and it was crazy, and I don't remember
Um,
exactly what he said, but it was wild, like the depth that he went into as like a 4-year-old, like, it's
no,
crazy.
and it's crazy too what you were saying about being a mom and a spiritual person. For me, that's been a little bit harder just because their mom is very active in their lives, and
Yeah.
we don't have problems, but we're not really like close. And
Yeah.
so I don't
There's
want to
different
like,
households, I get
yeah,
it.
like I don't want to overstep some type of like
Yeah.
spiritual, but
Yeah.
I do, if they ask me my opinion, I'll be like, yeah, this is my opinion on things. And I
Mhm.
talked about God and Jesus to keep it, PG too. You know what I mean? But no, it was so funny the other day. She came up to me and she was like, I want to be a psychic when I'm older.
Aw.
And but she doesn't really know that. I don't think she understands that that's what I do. I'm not entirely sure. Like,
Yeah.
cuz I leave my tarot cards around. So like, so it's not a big deal, you know what I mean? But they
Mhm.
haven't really like fully asked me, and I haven't really fully told them. But I feel like
Yeah.
my stepson is starting to be like kind of looking at me different. He's like, "Do you do voodoo or something?" I was like, "No,
Aw.
I don't do voodoo." Like, and I kind of explained it a little bit, but I feel like they're both kind of like they don't really get it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, like, there's actually a really great book, and it might help. It helped me a lot to like change some perspectives that I had. It's called, actually, it's on my profile under like books that I love, and I don't know, it says something like that. Um, and It's called Subtle Energy Techniques by Sydney Dale. She wrote these big like chakra books a long time ago, like the big thick ones about subtle energy.
Mhm.
Um, and There's some practices in there that you can actually do with kids. And at first I was like, I found resistance within myself, and I was like, oh, I don't want to like come off as that person or whatever that's like teaching kids this technique or whatever. But then I realized, like, the more that we help people to realize, especially when they're young, that these things are very real, um, the better that they're gonna be able to cope with the intensity of life. So they don't need to have those horrible limiting things happen to them that we did. You know, they don't need to turn to like drugs and alcohol or like anything like that.
Yeah.
They can just live because they know that they have access to these tools.
Yeah.
Because that's like, you know, when we feel out of control, that's what we do is we go to those quick fixes, you know.
No, yeah, and
uh,
that's what for me is hard, as a step parent coming in kind of like later in the game is that I feel like with our oldest one, I think it's I don't want to say it's too late, you know what I mean? But I feel like he's
not,
already so set that it would be a
yeah.
lot harder. So he's not like stuck, but you know what I mean? It'd just be harder.
Teenagers are really hard though. Like I have heard this and I'm scared. Really
Girl, I cannot. I cannot. Like, I love him to death, but
yeah.
the moodiness is too much.
Yeah.
It's like if you're like for instance, I'll let him go play with his friends for 10 hours. And then when I get him, he's like, "This day sucks. I have nothing to do anymore." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
You're like,
But I know it's just
what?
normal. Yeah, it's just normal stuff. But yeah, so with the Pisces little one, she's very emotional, very
So
crying,
is my cancer baby. I
which
get
is
it.
I'm not gonna lie, like, it's not my vibe at all, like, I'm not a crier, like,
I'm not really
I'm
either.
so but I've taught her now though, because sometimes it is overreacting, you know what I mean? So I've taught her, like, as soon as she starts crying, I grab both of her hands, and I'm like, "Take a deep breath with me," so we just, like,
Yeah, that's the thing,
you know?
man. It's so easy. I do that with my like 15-month-old. And like
No.
what's crazy is he gets it. Like it's I'm starting like super young.
Yeah,
Like
no,
we're
good for
learning it.
you.
Yeah.
Have
He's
you seen the
really
video? Dude, have you seen the video that he has, like, a little newborn baby that's crying, and he does, like,
the yeah, we tried to do that with Solomon, but he like prefers us to like, do other things. He likes humming. I actually realized that he would hum back to me, and what it's doing is it's kind of doing a similar thing as it's activating your vagus nerve, and I love that I have, like, the perception to be able to, like, know these things, but I feel bad for the people in the world that don't know that these
Yeah,
tools exist, like, because 'cause I'm like, "That all you need to do is hum with your baby," like,
I
and
know.
he would.
Yeah,
He instantly
that's why I try to do these videos, and I try to, like, make it as simple as possible because I feel
yeah.
like so many people are talking about these concepts that are so important, but they use, like, big words or, like, they use all these very
Yeah,
specific
it's not
vocabulary.
accessible. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I definitely get that. But yeah, being a mom has definitely like changed how I like just live, you know, how I go through my life in different ways, and I'm much more attentive to like my home environment and stuff. And I kind of always was, but I think that now it's like it's even more important. And because I live in ways that are like kind of weird to some people and like whatever, but I think that at the end of the day, like I'm a mom who really cares about her kids and wants them to be inspired by the fact that I'm going after like the dreams that I have and the goals that I have. And I think that's like the best thing in the world to teach kids. Like if you are actually I heard this thing and it really stuck with me. A confident mom, or sorry, a confused mom is going to create confused children, but a confident mom is going to create uh confused or confident kids.
Yeah.
And I have really thought about that a lot. So don't find confusion in whatever you're doing. Be go into whatever decision that you're making as a parent with confidence because that is like key because it makes everything so much easier.
Yeah.
It's hard though. It's not easy, but if you can find the confidence in the midst of all the whatever, it's much easier.
Yeah. I always definitely try to be like 100% myself too cuz I feel like in the beginning like I didn't really know like how to navigate things. So what my like strategy was that I wouldn't go up to them for things like to try to bond. I would let them come to me just cuz I
Yeah.
feel like I didn't want them to think I was forcing it or just doing it so their
Yeah.
dad like thinks I care. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be like a genuine connection that like
Yeah.
we kind of both formed. But yeah, I try to just always be myself and it's so funny because My kids have never met anyone like me, like, at all. They're always like, "Nia, you're weird," or like, but the little one, I feel like it makes her feel comfortable, kinda like what you were saying, like, to be more herself, because she's like, "Oh, well, Nia says it's okay if I make a funny noise."
Aw.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can kind of like bond and be like a little weird and you know so I love it. I think it's so great and I wish that like everyone had a positive step parent experience. That does
Yeah.
really bum me out.
Yeah, I mean, it can be really difficult, you know? And a lot of people, like, that, may be those, like, more negative step parents, like, I think something that could really help people out there too is that, you're gonna make mistakes, like, but if you let those mistakes stick with you and then let those mistakes make your decisions, that's when they compound into something that it's not you anymore. It's that decision that's making all those rules for you. Because I work with a lot of moms who have a lot of guilt and shame, um, that they're not doing enough, and most of the time they are.
Yeah.
If you let those decisions or let those mistakes dictate your every move, that's when you can really get hurt by, your parenting experience, or your kids can, like, kind of pick
Yeah.
up on that because they're super intuitive little souls. Like,
Yeah.
they they're so innocent in all the things until they're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Until they know better. But it's just I just like, there's so many times when I've worked with mom, especially working moms, I think it's so hard when people, because, like, I would literally do anything to, like, be with my son 24/7. Like, that is like, I feel sad when I miss, like, I do, like, this nap time ritual with him, and I
Mm,
feel sad when I'm not there, because like, we're just he's my homie, man, like, we're just always hanging out, like, he's so cool.
yeah.
I mean, Jack's always, like, at school or doing something else, but,
Yeah, I get it. No, and I have two thoughts about like the other thing with like that guilt and stuff.
Mm.
I feel like it's really big as a parent if you can also apologize to your kid like, if you make a
Yes.
mistake. And that's something I've been working on, because every once in a while, you snap or, so
Yeah.
you say something or you're wrong, you're just wrong, like what you said.
Mhm.
And so I always try to remember, like, hey, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean that, or you were right, or whatever. Like that is huge.
Yeah.
But another thing with the guilt is, like, for instance, like with the mom that's like, oh, I feel like I'm not doing enough, but it's like, who is that voice? Like, is it actually coming from you, or are you hearing your mom, or
Yeah.
hearing your
Yeah.
partner's mom or the grandma or frickin', you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or, like, some random person on the internet. Like, I noticed when I was pregnant, man, I had such horrible pregnancy anxiety. I was worried about every single thing under the sun, and then I got out of pregnancy and I was like, "None of this matters." Like, none of it. Like, none of it mattered at all. And I think a lot of women, like, pregnancy is so weird. Like, it's just, like, such a weird feeling, like, at least for me, it was, like, bizarre. I didn't feel like I was really in my body, and, like,
Mhm,
it's just, like, this weird liminal space, like, you're just becoming this transitional portal between, like,
mhm.
heaven and earth, and you're like, "Alright, like, what do I do now?" And your body's
Yeah,
like, "Nothing." Like, you just sit
yeah,
here. And so I think a lot of times those worries and fears and all that stuff can kind of come in, especially when you're bringing, like, such an innocent little being into the world. But, you know, I found that, like, my algorithm on, like, Instagram or, like, anything, like, it was just mom videos. It was, like, the worst thing ever. Like, in the time when I probably shouldn't have been worrying about it, all these other people tried to make me worry about these things, and, like, it's not, like, don't just don't listen to them. Like, don't
well, it's
listen to
also
it.
there's too many opinions.
Oh, there's so
It's just too
many.
many, but even like with astrology, there's always like, everyone be careful because this planet's going to this planet. And like, yeah, like you should be mindful, but it doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean that like your life is gonna implode. But then
Yeah.
even if your life did implode, it probably needed to.
Yeah, like, I think a lot of people, especially, like, in spiritual community, let those things, like, dictate their reality, um, and I try, like, because I am not necessarily a proponent for anything that I see in the spiritual community that is, like, too woo, like, to the point where it's like, there's probably some toxic energy going on here, like, with
Mhm.
it my the only thing that I can say is that me and twin flames are not friends. That culture, that dynamic, all that stuff, I've said this to so many people,
Dude,
but
I'm so glad that we're on the same page with that.
it's so toxic, like, no. You should be happy with the person that you're with. I have had people tell me that me and my husband are twin flames, and I'm like, "Nope," like,
Mhm.
instantly shut down. Like,
Yeah, like,
"No."
the whole thing is because 'cause they're like, "Oh, he's gonna run away,
And then
and then
you're
he's
gonna go
gonna
chase
come back."
him.
Yeah, I'm like,
Ugh, no.
but then
Gross.
also people are so obsessed with that title that anyone they date, "Oh, I have to stay with him, he's my twin flame regardless." Like, this
No.
is
No. 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 No.
But
So gross. Oh, I hate
I kind of feel like, or well, I'm probably wrong because I just don't personally see it as much. I'm sure that's still a thing that's happening. But anyways, I think that this was like a really great episode. I'm so grateful that you came
it.
on.
Yeah.
Thank you again for my session. It's still
Yeah.
blowing my mind years later.
I love that. I'm so glad you found your recording too. That made me so happy.
I don't even know how I found it. I literally like I've been looking for it for years and I just found it like the other day.
That's so cool. I love that.
Divine timing. Yeah.
Yay.
But what's funny, and I wanna leave with this because I think it will apply to everyone. There was one point in my session where you asked my higher self if I was gonna be successful, and my higher self said yes, but she's always tripping. So I feel like that's a good message for everyone. Like everything in your life is gonna be fine. You're probably just stressing way too much.
Don't trip.
Don't trip because you will fall. But
Oh,
anyways,
that's so
thank you
funny.
so much
Yeah,
again,
thank
and we'll talk
you.
soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
First,
Bye.
bye.